Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of the Minnesota Sports Pulse. I am Josiah Eccles. With me, as always, my wonderful co-host John Bergar. How are you doing this evening?
Pretty excited because we're about to have a really fun video for everybody that I think we're gonna enjoy. At least I'm gonna enjoy. I don't know about you, Josiah, but I am really stoked to start ranking some of these people within the NFL. And we're going wide receiver edition today.
That's right. We're going to be ranking our top 10 wide receiver groups in the NFL. Obviously, we've got a lot of buzz about the wide receiver groups now that Jawan Jennings has signed with the Minnesota Vikings. You can check out one of our earlier episodes where we talked about that signing and the impact it will have on the Vikings. But now let's talk about how that impacts the NFL as a whole. Do they need to be on watch for the most dangerous wide receiver group in the NFL? I guess we'll see by the time we get to the end of this video. So let's
All right.
uh let's preface this. Yeah, go
Yes.
ahead. Go ahead.
I was like, I want to ask a couple questions here because
Yeah.
what I want the fans to know is, and because I'm curious, because I don't even know. Like Josiah and I are going through this, and I don't even know what the rules are for this. Okay, so here's what I'm going to ask, Josiah: Are we ranking wide receiver groups based on top two, wide receiver threes, like including all of them? Like, what are we doing here? What's the first thing?
So, obviously the tendency is to rank wide receivers based on your top 2 because those are the most prominent ones. They're always going to lead with the most stats. I did try to lock down a specific number and I found a number of conflicting sources, but the NFL as a whole ran 11 personnel, meaning one running back, one tight end, and three wide receivers, roughly about 60% of the time in 2025,
Mhm.
as close to an average as I could find. So that means that for over half of the offensive snaps, there are three wide receivers on the field. Now, obviously, tight ends and running backs play a lot into the overall offensive weapons, but this isn't an overall offensive weapons ranking. We could maybe do that at a later date if if everyone wants to see that. But today, we're just going to be focusing on the wide receivers. And I think that there's room for interpretation. I think you'll see with our lists a really strong two might with a decent third might outweigh an overall solid three. It's a little bit open to interpretation, some back and forth, and I think that's what we're going to see as we go through this. So I took kind of both factors into account, if that answers your question at all.
Well, and now see, so now my next question here is, um, what are we doing with the AJ Brown situation? So AJ Brown is technically still on Philadelphia, but
Hmm.
everybody's saying June 1st, once that's hit, he's gone. So how do we rank them now? Are we like, you know what, current, or do we just say, you know what, that's a done deal just because everybody's talking about it? Because I mean, I don't think it's a done deal, but everybody's talking about it like it is.
I I left it as AJ Brown is on the Eagles as of today. So that's how
Yes.
I have my list. Now, obviously, we can certainly talk about that.
Hmm.
But like for example, Tyreek Hill is a free agent.
Yep.
Last I checked, anyways.
No,
If
yeah,
he's
he's
if he's signed with a team, that might change something. He's maybe not the Tyreek he was a few years ago. Um,
well, with that injury, you don't really know like
yeah,
how he's going to be. So we're
exactly,
not even going to get into that. But okay, like I'm
exactly.
down with that. I just have two
Yeah.
different lists here because like
Hmm.
you gotta rank them based off of that. So I know what list I should be using now.
Yeah.
So let's jump in. Let's get started. Okay, let's start with number 10. I'll go first,
All right.
and I'm gonna rank the Chicago Bears as the
Oh,
10th
okay.
best overall wide receiver group in the NFL. Okay, now they got a pretty decent wide receiver two, right? One, two. They got Romeo, and then they got Rome. Sorry, not Romeo, Rome, and Burden. And Burden showed some flashes towards the end of the year. Now he needs to show a lot more this year, but he showed the flashes when he got opportunity. He didn't get a lot of opportunity, throughout the year. So I'm pretty excited to see what he does. I like the talent, and I think that he could be a very good piece for them. And honestly, I think he could probably overtake Rome. But I do think Rome's going to have a better year than him this year coming out. But I wouldn't be surprised either way. And then their wide receiver three is Zacchaeus, and he hasn't been anything special, but wherever he's gone, he's always been just a very reliable wide receiver three. So I'm starting off number 10 with the Chicago Bears. What about you?
That's good. I think that's a lot of potential as a wide receiver group. I think they've got some proving yet to do. Zacchaeus is a nice. a nice third wide receiver. I think any team would be glad to have him as a third wide receiver, like you said. I do not have the Bears at number 10. My number 10 is the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Okay.
So I think we're gonna differ on this one because I know there's a guy on here that you're extremely high on. So obviously the Jacksonville Jaguars, Brian Thomas Jr., Parker Washington, Jacoby Myers, and if you want to get even deeper into it, there's a little bit of Travis Hunter mixed in there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
I know you're really high on Parker Washington.
I
You
mean,
let your
honestly, I like the entire wide receiver room, but I
yes,
do love Parker Washington.
and I think this is a theme for me. If Brian Thomas had continued his year one success into year two, I think that I would have them a lot higher.
Mhm.
But he did
Yeah.
not have, he had a pretty significant sophomore slump.
Yep.
And there's talk about Parker Washington. Is he the number one wide receiver for the Jaguars? And you actually sent me some link about that. And it's like, I like Parker Washington, but if he's the number one wide receiver for the Jaguars, they can't be that high on the list. I'm assuming you're going to have him higher, but I guess we'll see as we move forward.
Yeah, I mean, I do love Parker Washington, and to be completely honest, it's all about the connection between the quarterback and the wide receiver, and we're not here to discuss that, but, like, if you look at a lot of these wide receivers and the wide receiver groups, it's about the connection that these wide receivers and quarterbacks have with the timing and the routes run, right? So, I mean, that's a conversation we can have for another day, but I do like your pick. Alright, let's jump into number 9. Who you got there?
All right. So for my number 9, I have the Houston Texans.
Me too.
So,
Bingo.
all
Let's
right,
go. Love it.
let's go. Yeah, Nico Collins, Jaden Higgins, Tank Dell is their top 3. They showed some good wide receiver depth this past year, um, with, Tank Dell, and there's a big asterisk on this. Is Tank Dell, what is he gonna be when he comes back? He's had some pretty horrendous luck with injuries, so
Yeah.
but there's no denying his talent. Nico Collins also struggles to stay on the field, and I think that's what keeps them lower on this list. But
Yeah.
overall, they're a solid group. Jaden Higgins had a really nice rookie year. Excited to see what he'll be in year two. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on it?
I like it too. I think it's crowded, which is part of my dilemma with it in general. I like Nico a lot. He's 27 years old, and you're right. He flashes really good things, but he can't ever stay healthy for a full season, unfortunately. And then you got Jaden Higgins, who's just second year. He flashed really good stuff. He came out of Iowa State and did really well there. So I like his potential and just kind of like the way that he plays. But I want to see more from him this year. And then yeah, like as you said, you got Dell and you have Noel and you have a couple others there that are just they're guys that need to produce more, but they're just been for Dell unfortunate circumstances. He came in and was doing great, and that injury was just gruesome. But now he's back. So the only thing that I think is going to happen with him being back is he's going to take a lot of targets away from some of the other guys and just crowd that room a little bit more than what you probably want it to be. But I really like that. I got the Houston Texans at number 9 as well. I'm going to jump up to number 8, and this is where I had the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I
Okay.
ended up putting them at number 8 with BTJ, Washington, Myers, and Hunter. I think that's just a very solid group. I know BTJ did regress, but he's still, this is his year 3, right? So he's still got so many. He's only 22 or 23. I don't even think he's 23 actually. But anyways, he got so many years ahead of him. So he's got plenty of time to right the ship. Parker Washington's only 24. Travis Hunter is what, 23, 24, whatever he is too. And then you got Jacoby Myers there, who's a very solid vet, and actually one of the most underrated wide receivers in the league. That I would willing to argue with anybody on that. He has been very consistent and very good on bad teams for his entire career. So I really, really, really like them, and I think Trevor Lawrence has some weapons there, and he's also got a good tight end in Brent Strange. So I'm with Jacksonville number 8. What about you?
For my number 8, I have the Detroit Lions. So, obviously, you've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. Jameson Williams, the speed threat, and then Isaac Tesla. I think that's how you
Tesla.
Tesla, who didn't have a lot of catches, but snagged some pretty incredible touchdowns in
Mhm.
2025. So we'll see if he continues to develop a little bit more, but he's still a bit of an unknown. And while I like Jameson Williams, I think there's stronger wide receiver twos in the NFL. And Amon Ra is up there, but I don't think he's quite the best wide receiver in the NFL. So they're an extremely good group, but I have them at number 8.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the number 7, I'm gonna jump in here, and I got the Denver Broncos. So I
I
have
also have
them.
the Denver Broncos
There
at
we
number
hey, we're
7.
2 for 4. We're doing solid.
All
We're doing a little
right.
bit better than what I thought for both of us here.
Exactly.
But Denver Broncos, I think they got a really solid group with adding Jalen Waddle, who's been a very underrated wide receiver. I think coming into the league, everybody had really high expectations for Jalen, right? And then the expectations kind of tampered as we kind of saw the wide receiver that he really truly is. And he's a very good wide receiver. Don't get me wrong, but um, I really don't think he's been given phenomenal opportunity in his career so far. So I'm hoping that this is, kind of like a step up. But you got him as your wide receiver one, Cortland Sutton, who's been an extremely reliable and extremely solid wide receiver for his entire career. I love him a lot. Um, then you got two young guys, right? Pat Bryant, and then you got Troy Franklin. And I really enjoy both of those guys. There's a couple other young guys that are on it that I'm not going to list, but I really like both of those guys. I'm a big Pat Bryant guy, to be completely honest with you. I like his talent. I just think he needs more opportunity. And unfortunately, he had, a couple injuries last year towards the end of the season that, kind of kept him out. But I really like him a lot as a wide receiver 3 option and even more potentially. But I mean, he's so young, he could develop into that. So I got the Broncos at 7. What do you think about those guys?
I agree with you. I like Troy Franklin a little bit more than Pat Bryant, but I also
Hmm.
have a little bit of a fantasy football thing there. But also, um, Troy Franklin and Bo Nix were college teammates, so I think
Yes.
that's helped a
Good
lot.
point.
I think overall the Broncos, I think if you like averaged out the talent of all their wide receivers, I think this is definitely one of the strongest groups in the NFL. What keeps them, on the lower half of this list for me is Waddle and Sutton. I'm not actually sure who's wide receiver 1 on this list. Sutton's quietly had a couple of 1,000-yard seasons in a row here. I think he's one of the more underrated wide receivers in the NFL, but
Agreed.
none of them are the caliber of some of the true number ones that we have in this league. And I think that's what holds them back slightly. When you have a true number one, like elite wide receiver, and then good supporting cast, that puts you higher up on this list, as we'll see with, I think, most of the rest of this list. So,
Yeah.
tell me who your number 6 team is.
So number 6, I actually have the Vikings. They're just outside the top 5.
Oh, okay.
It was these next few teams were very difficult for me to rank. And honestly, I could see myself switching them in any order, the next 3 that I'm about to go through. But number 6, I had the Vikings. Obviously, we got Justin Jefferson, right? And he's, a top 5 wide receiver in the league. Now, last year was unfortunate. It was a very, very difficult year, not only for him, but just the Minnesota offense. So that's kind of a sour taste in, I think everybody's mouth, right? So there you go. That's unfortunate. Then you got Jordan Addison, and I love Jordan Addison. He's got some talent, but man, the boy can get himself into trouble. He needs to figure it out. And the best availability, right, or ability is availability. You got to be on the field. And if you can't be on the field because you're suspended for dumb stuff or this and that, well, I mean, we can't help you out. I like him, and he was a great pick, and I have enjoyed him on the field. And when Justin's been out, he's proven to be a very reliable receiver, but he needs to prove to us that he can be on the field at all times and not get himself in trouble outside. Okay. And then you just add, the other JJ, Juwan Jennings, and I love every bit of him. So I mean, it's a very solid group overall. And like I said, I could see myself ranking them a bit higher, but I also don't know how they haven't played together at all. I don't know what's going to happen here with some of that stuff. So there's a couple other teams that just barely edged in front of them.
Yeah. I think that's interesting on the Vikings. I think one thing that we have to keep in mind as we talk about this is, like you mentioned earlier, the connection with the quarterback is important, but when you're evaluating the talent of the wide receivers, you can't hold them liable for the quarterback situation. So you combine the Vikings quarterback situation and their offensive line situation last year, I think that naturally drives them down in the rankings further than their talent actually has them where they should be.
Which could very well be the case if you're going strictly off talent, but I mean the NFL is also about production, and like when and the way that I think and what most people think is you have to produce. Talent's they're always there, and we see the most talented individuals all the time, but if they don't produce, they're not a great. I mean, they're just not great at their position.
I also
You
think
know,
there's a difference between the wide receivers not producing and the quarterback and the offense just
uh
not being able to take advantage of what they're generating.
Yeah. But I mean, I will also say, just because we are Minnesota fans and we watch their games and we know about them, well, I will say that these wide receivers do not need to just place the blame on the quarterback and or the offensive line, because we had a 15% drop rate last year
Oh yeah.
as a team. And that right there, shows that they have a lot of improvement. That was 3 times the rate of the second worst team in the NFL.
Hmm.
3 times. So that also definitely has a little bit of a factor into this, because yeah, while they are talented, I mean, you drop 15% of the passes that are coming your way, that is a problem. So,
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
that will definitely improve. I mean, that was an outlier compared to all the seasons that we've had, so I'm not super concerned with it. But last year was still a very difficult taste in the mouth. So many drop passes and just all around, just didn't look like the Vikings.
Mhm. So for my number 6, I had the Seattle Seahawks. So,
Okay.
Jackson Smith and Jigba, obviously one of the top guys in the game, had a phenomenal year. Not can't take anything away from him. Then you have Cooper Cup, who is solid, but he's not what he was, and he's not going to suddenly improve again. He's a great, solid wide receiver number two, taking nothing away from him, but he is not that the Rams Cooper Cup anymore.
Yeah.
So that knocks it down a little bit for me. I really liked the move to bring in Rashid Shaheed in the middle of the year as their number 3 wide receiver. He is a little bit of a one-trick pony with the deep ball and then being
Yeah.
effective in the return game, so that hurts them a little bit there as well. But still, a fantastic group. Sam Darnold got made a smart move signing with the Seahawks.
Yeah. I'm gonna comment here because I don't have Seattle in my top 10.
Oh,
This is
really?
Yeah, this is like hot take here. I'm gonna get a lot of heat from this from people. I don't have them in my top 10. They are number 11, okay? Number 11, but the reason being is because I think honestly all they have is JSN. I do think that Cooper Cup is a pretty overrated receiver. Now, he had a phenomenal season. I will never take that away from him. Winning the Triple Crown was amazing. Okay. That was so fun to watch. But if you also go back and look at his career stats and other things that, to take into consideration, he really hasn't been that great. I mean, he's had one phenomenal season that was great and amazing, but it's not like he's been out of this world. So I think that he gets way too much hype and credit for the one season that he had, and they're like, oh, he's been a great wide receiver his entire career, when in reality it hasn't been that phenomenal. So that was a factor for me. But I will say I am predicting that I think Seattle's going to sign Debo Samuel this offseason, because I think he fills a big need that they thought Shaheed was going to fill, but he doesn't. And then Shaheed is going to be the main return dangerous threat man. That's what I feel like is going to happen there.
I wonder if Brandon Ayuk is going to play football again.
Yeah, we don't need to worry about him.
That could
Waste our
change
breath
things
on
too.
him. All right, what you got for number 5? We're in the top 5 now.
All right, number 5, I have the Philadelphia Eagles.
Same.
So yeah, Philadelphia Eagles, assuming AJ Brown is on the team as
Yes.
we previously established. So AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, and rookie to be Makai Lemon.
Uh-huh.
So that's a pretty solid. And their wide receiver number 4, I believe, is Dontavian Wicks, is I think who their wide receiver number
They
4 is.
traded for him
So
from Green Bay, yeah.
and
They got him.
I've seen some buzz about like an AJ Brown, Brian Thomas
Yeah,
Jr.
which
swap with the
exactly, that could
Jaguars,
happen too.
which would this would change this. So, but we can only work with what the information we have currently. So, I think Makai Lemon, we'll see. All indicators seem like he's going to be a pretty solid NFL wide receiver.
Mhm.
Devonta Smith, I'm not really sure how I feel about him. He's wildly talented, but
Yeah.
I don't know. And then AJ Brown, again, also wildly talented, but sometimes the Eagles receivers are just inconsistent. Seems like their strength is the throwing down the field, and that's a little bit of the product of their quarterback too. He likes to throw the sideline deep ball um, as their main kind of route tree. They torched the Vikings over and over again with that this past game that they played in 2025. So
That's the
um,
second time you brought this up since we started this whole podcast here. You got to stop doing that. Taking me down memory lane.
We most of the memory lane for Minnesota is bad memories, John, in case you'd forgotten.
Hot take, Minnesota fans hate watching their Minnesota sports
Uh,
teams.
I love watching them. They just break my heart all the time.
So I agree. I got Philly number 5 as well. Now I'm gonna ask you. I'm not even gonna go into why I got him there because you said pretty much everything I'm gonna say. But where would you rank Philadelphia if AJ Brown was traded June 1st to the Patriots?
I mean,
Would they be
if
a top 10 team still?
okay, I guess there's got to be a disclaimer. Are they bringing anybody in place of AJ Brown? If it's just AJ Brown going out and it's Devonta Smith, Makai Lemon, and Dontavian Wicks, then no, they're not making this
Okay,
list.
but think about the Patriots offense. Who are they going to trade that would even make you want to keep them in the top 10? Is there a single wide receiver on that Patriots team that they would trade them that would make you want to keep them in the top 10? The answer for me is no. There's not. That
I
wide
would agree with
receiver
that.
room is
No.
bare. So it's for me, they're not in the top 10. So I would move Seattle up to the top 10, which is where I'm getting at this. So all the Seahawks fans don't
Right.
freak out and, like
Mhm.
hang me from the next tree because, yes, I do think that they're a top 10. There's a lot of things that haven't happened yet this season. So I'm gonna break the barrier here, go with number 4. Okay. I had the Detroit Lions. Now, I know you ranked them number 8, and I'm at number 4, so we're a little bit off here. Um, I think that Amon-Ra is one of the best talents in the NFL when it comes to wide receivers. And he is Mr. Reliable when it comes to the entirety of the NFL. Okay. The man he is available for every game all the time. We saw it last year. The dude had a terrible ankle sprain and he turned around and came back and played on a short week and he put up big numbers, okay? He does not miss games and he comes in each year and he puts up massive numbers, catching wise, yards wise, and touchdowns. So I think he deserves a lot of credit. Now, the second fiddle is JMO, right? And I'm not a huge JMO fan. Any boomer bust wide receiver is not somebody that I'm really interested in. So like including AJ Brown, which has kind of been what he has been as well. But any boomer bust wide receiver, I'm not a huge fan of. But I will say he had over 1,000 yards last year. So that's 2 wide receivers on that team that had over 1,000 yards. If you combine their totals, it's almost 2,500. Okay, that's very important and very impressive, which is why I have them number 4 on the list. And then obviously I just like Tesla. I really do. Or Tesla. I don't know how you say it, but I
I
really
think it's
do.
Tesla
Is that
because
yeah? I
there's
really do like him. I
two
I
A's at the end.
he was a deep sleeper last year that I was super interested in. I did not like that he went to Detroit because I want him to go to a place where he's going to get some more opportunity. That's what I really wanted, just because he's got a really good talent, and he showed his talent too when he's played. He's made some phenomenal catches that normal people, normal wide receivers, sorry, would not make. So I got them at number 4. You've already talked about Detroit. They're obviously number 8 for you. What do you got at number 4?
We're continuing the theme of you being much higher on Detroit for this upcoming season than I am, so we'll see how that plays out. For my number 4, I have the Dallas Cowboys.
I am so intrigued to see where you're like who you have here in the top 4 now because like I'm looking at my top 4 and obviously you got one team that I don't have anywhere near the top. So like this is going to surprise me. But okay, you got Dallas at number
Interesting. So,
4. Tell me why.
yeah, Dallas. I only have 3 teams left. I don't think it'd be too difficult to figure out who those 3 teams are. So C.D. Lamb, George Pickens. I mean, that's one of the best tandems in terms of talent wise. And Ryan Flournoy quietly had a pretty solid season. I think he had 40
Yeah.
catches. It's just Dallas with Dak Prescott, they can always air the ball out. CeeDee Lamb struggles with some injuries from time to time, but
Yeah.
he's one of the most talented guys in the NFL. George Pickens is a little bit of a head case, but
Yeah.
he's also one of the most gifted wide receivers in the league as well. So this one, I mean, top 5, I think number 4 is pretty perfect spot for them.
And I have him at number 3. So I
Hmm.
mean, we're pretty darn close there. I'm not a huge Pickens fan. I never have been since he came in the league. But he was really good last year, especially in red zone. Like he had way more touchdowns over expected. I think he had 9 total, and I mean, he had a very good season. So that was really good to see. I do like CD over Pickens, and I think most people would agree with that statement. And we don't even know. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
he could be a trade candidate here before the season as well. He just signed, his franchise tag. That doesn't mean that he's going to stay there because he can still, be traded on that tag type thing. But I like them a lot too as my number three. I don't have much else to say because Flournoy was also a really good fill-in when he needed to be. So I was kind of excited to see that. And but behind them, they just got a couple guys that really had some potential, but kind of lost a lot of momentum. With the people who were like, "Oh yeah, these guys could be really good," and then all of a sudden, no, they haven't really shown it, and they just kind of the hype's gone,
Yeah,
right?
and the way tight ends are used in the NFL today, it's very I didn't look up this stat, but it's pretty rare that you run 4 wide receivers.
Oh yeah, of
Y
course,
these
yeah.
days, the tight ends run in one of those 2 slot positions, and a lot of teams are running a couple tight ends at the same time, so, um, for my number 3, you had the Cowboys number 3. For my number 3, this is where I have the Vikings.
Yeah.
So, again, I just want to reiterate, I feel like people are confusing the Vikings quarterback and offensive line problems of 2025 with wide receiver talent. And I think that's just not the case. I actually would rank them higher if not for Jordan Addison having a very strange year between the suspensions, some very, very crucial drops, and Justin Jefferson had probably the worst year of his career. But even then, he still eclipsed 1,000 yards. And we had a game where our quarterback threw for like 9 yards. So, um, and let me ask you a question. Is there a better wide receiver number 3 in the NFL today than Jawan Jennings?
No, I already said that. There's not
Mhm.
like there's nobody even close to a better wide receiver three. Now, I said this in the other video, and I'll say it again right now. I think that Juwan Jennings is going to push Jordan Addison for wide receiver two snaps, and I think it's going to happen. And people don't expect it, and they're not going to be happy about it. And I
Okay.
think it's going to happen in certain situations, especially red zone.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier.
So let me ask you another question. Is
Mhm.
there a better wide receiver 3 in the NFL than Jordan Addison?
No, like
So
no, no. Like I said,
s
there's
so
not of either one of those.
here's kinda what I'm boiling down to. There's a legitimate case to be made, and you can argue semantics. There's a legitimate case to be made that Justin Jefferson is the best wide receiver in the NFL. He's among the top 3 or 4 guys you would talk about in this discussion. And then while we may not have this, you could argue when Jordan Addison is performing, he is among, if not the best number 2 wide receiver in the NFL.
I don't think you would make that argument. I think that's a
He
stretch.
had
Like
he had he
I
had
love
some
Jordan
drops, but
Addison.
he spent time as the number 1 wide receiver on multiple occasions throughout his career and performed, as you
Yes.
said, for good Vikings offenses.
Yeah, no, and
Um,
like I
his
agree, but I
drops his
think
drops were concerning, but he was a first round draft pick.
yeah. No, and you and I are torn on Jordan Addison, and it's not like we're torn that you love him and I hate him. That's not what this is. I think you're just way higher on him as a wide receiver two than I am because there are some phenomenal wide receiver twos. Like if I were to rank wide receiver twos in this league right now, I would rank several above him, and it's not even close. Like I would have Higgins, I would have Pickens, I would have Devonte Adams above him. I would probably have Devonte Smith above him. Like those are
Who
those.
Devonta Smith over
Yes.
I'm not gonna
Yes.
give you that one.
Well, and
No.
and but like see obviously this is where we differ and this is what I
Mhm,
love is like these
mhm.
conversations. But like I would probably rank four wide receivers, if not yeah, I'll just say four just to be conservative, whatever. Four wide receivers above Jordan Addison as a wide receiver two. Now, I think he also just needs more opportunity because like Higgins, when Chase has been out, Higgins has been unstoppable. Like
Mhm.
he has been unstoppable. Okay. Jordan Addison, when JJ was out, he played really well. He had some good games and he showed flashes that we as Vikings fans know and love. And we're getting caught up on the Vikings just because we love the Vikings and we're
Right,
talking about
right.
them,
It'd
right?
also be
You
it'd
know,
also be nice, I'm sure Jordan Addison would pop off a little bit more if Joe Burrow was throwing to him.
yeah, right.
Keep
So
that in
like
mind.
there's
So,
differences, yep. But
so I guess I'll boil down to
yeah,
again, because we gotta keep moving. So, you've got one of the best, if not the best number 1 wide receiver in the league, one of the best, if not the best number 3 wide receiver in the league, and let's say top number 5 wide receiver number 2 in the league. To me, all that combined, that's top 3 at least. I mean, having them all the way down at 6 with when you look at it that way, I think is a little bit, disrespectful, and frankly, I'm a tad bit disappointed in you, but I've always been more of the optimist to your pessimist, so let's
I
move
knew
on.
you would be
Yeah.
disappointed. It's okay. And like I said, I was very close.
Mhm.
Actually, initially when I started this, I had him at 4.
Yeah, so
But I also kind of thought I was being a homer, so I had to level myself a little bit. So number
right.
2, I'm going to jump into it, and we
Yep.
talked about it already, but I got Cincinnati as number 2. And I it's tough for me because you got like we both had the Rams and Bengals as our top 2. Like I
Yeah.
think that's pretty
Mhm.
easy that like we know that, right? So I picked Cincinnati as number 2. Jamar Chase and T Higgins are 2 extremely solid wide receivers. Same thing as Puka and Adams. Um, Again, I talked about earlier, I don't like boom or bust players, and when T. Higgins and Jamar Chase both play together, that's exactly what they are. Like they had games where they both played extremely well, and they had games they both were productive, both fantasy wise and just regular. But a lot of the times, it's like a one or the other type thing. You know, like Jamar Chase could have 3 touchdowns, score 50 fantasy points, but the next game he's got 5, you know. And I really don't like that kind of production. Overall, as a season, you can end up with 12, 13, 14, 1,500 yards, right? Which is great. But, you know, if you take out 5 of those games, that's half your production. So to me, it's more of a preference on myself for boom or bust, which is why I have them as number 2. But how do you have them ranked?
I have the Rams as number 2
Yeah, and I could easily see
and
that.
the Bengals as number 1. I think, it boils down to, I think, Devontae Adams is still phenomenal, but Devontae Adams is on the wrong side of 30 compared to, uh, Chase and Higgins. I actually don't know how old Higgins is, but there's no way
Higgins
he's
is
older.
like 28.
Yeah, he's
I
not
think he's
older than
28.
Devontae Adams.
He
Devontae
might
Adams
not
has a
be
lot.
28. He might be close, but
Yeah.
28.
Devontae Adams has a lot of miles and a lot of concussions.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah.
under his belt. So while he's still he's yeah, him and T Higgins, they're the best. They're yeah, right now they're probably the best number 2 wide
Yeah.
receivers in the NFL. And for the Bengals at who I have at number 1, Andre Iosivas. If I butcher his name, I apologize.
Yeah, he's
Don't watch very many Bengals games. He's had 8 touchdowns over the past couple years. He's turned himself into a pretty reliable wide receiver 3. Um, and the
yeah,
Rams,
I'm not high on him.
I'm not really sure who the Rams' number 3 wide receiver is. Is Whittington is up there. I know they've got a rookie who's been good, but I mean, both of these teams, the strengths are they're the 2 best wide receiver duos in the NFL.
Yeah.
I don't, and the strength of that carries them forward.
Exactly, which is why we both had him 1 2, right? And I
Yep.
honestly I think you could interchange them both and make an argument for both just like we have pretty easily because I think it's all about how like what you perceive and what you value within an offense, right? Because I mean Adams has been extremely productive. So is Higgins, but I mean Adams has been extremely productive and what you based it off of was his age and that he's going to be declining, right? Like that
That's
was
one of the
something that like
factors I considered.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, exactly. So like and like obviously I had other factors that I used. And so I think we differ in some of these because we ranked by different rules, right? And our
Also,
different
Puka needs to get
preferences.
himself out of rehab.
Oh, he'll be fine. I also think Puka's a better talent than Chase, and I know people are gonna hate me saying that. I really
Oh,
do, dude. I do.
wow.
I'm sorry. I like Chase. I think Chase is great. He's awesome. He's
I
phenomenal.
think
Obviously, clearly one of the best wide receivers in the league. I just favor Puka. I
think
just I do. I
he
think Puka's so
plays
much more consistent as a
he plays
production.
so physical. I think his ceiling on his career length is extremely limited. Now
And
again,
you very well could be right.
for a 1 season off, yes, you could be right. Puka, it probably produces a little more consistently once in 1 season.
But that's also why I value Amon-Ra because
Also
Amon-Ra's the same
Matthew,
way.
yeah, Matthew Stafford's been a little bit better at staying on the field than Joe Burrow, which we have to keep prefacing.
A lot of it better.
You know, we're trying to look at these wide receivers based on just what they, what they can do and, their relative talent and ability as opposed to sometimes they can be hamstrung or elevated by their quarterback in certain situations.
Yep. Yeah. So,
So
I mean,
it's tough.
I think we were pretty similar on several things that we got in there. Obviously, I had Seattle
Give me
outside.
your
You had them
yeah.
inside.
Give me your run through your top 10, 10 to 1 real quick, just as a
All right.
recap for everybody.
10, Chicago. 9, Houston. 8, Jacksonville. 7, Denver. 6, Minnesota. Sad face. 5, Philadelphia Eagles. 4, Detroit Lions. 3, the Cowboys. 2, got the Bengals. And 1, the Rams.
All right, and I had 10 the Jaguars, 9 the Texans, 8 the Lions, 7 Denver Broncos, 6 Seattle Seahawks, 5 the Eagles, 4 the Cowboys, 3 the Vikings, 2 the Rams, and number 1 I had the Bengals. Any other thoughts before we wrap this up and get out of here, John?
I'm gonna get trolled in the comments for a lot of the opinions that I've put out here, and I'm more than okay with that. Okay. I think a little differently than some people. I like to think it's right, but most people like to think it's wrong. So please tell me all of the things that I did wrong within this video. I got a lot of fun things in here, and I'm open to conversation. Josiah, you can't tell me what to do because I don't really care about your opinion in all these matters. Um, but everybody else, please tell me because I already know what Josiah's going to tell me I did wrong.
You didn't rank the Vikings high enough.
I
You
know.
are disparaging the great Vikings tradition.
I am
Randy
sorry.
Randy Moss, Percy Harvin, Chris Carter, they're all frowning at you for
I
the
Hey, much
disrespect you've shown today.
much love to Randy and Chris. I appreciate everything that you've done. You forgot Sidney Rice. He's one of the great ones that we
Well, I
got
don't
there
have a
too.
I don't have a picture of him right here,
Yeah.
so
So, all right. Well, hey, this has been a really fun episode. I know I made a lot of fun mistakes, did a lot of fun controversial things that people are gonna love and enjoy and just troll me for, which is great. But we appreciate you guys watching. All right. This has been the Pulse of Minnesota Sports. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Okay. Share all my terrible takes with everybody so that way they can laugh at me too and just make me laughing stop. I would love that. All right. But we're gonna catch you on the next episode. Stay tuned.